Welcome back to what should hopefully be the last episode on this Protonic Blue project car. To recap, this is a 120 amp hour, which never came in Protonic Blue, and we had a set of Protonic Blue panels left over from a project way back, which we've put on this car, well, all but one panel. And in the last episode, you saw everything going together, being dry fit just before it goes to the paint shop. It's now back from the paint shop, but before we focus on those aspects and the last little bits and bobs that we need to do, first, we're going to get the wheels back on, because in its current format, it's looking horrendous and it's just an eyesore around the showroom. So we're going to get the wheels on. We have stuck with the 429 style wheels just to stay true to the build sheet of this car. We've got new tyres on the front. We opted to stick with the Bridgestones because the rears had really good tread. So although all four wheels have been refurbished, the rears are the original tyres. And the fronts, they weren't bad on tread at all. They were the originals. However, they were quite perished, which is or sort of cracked in the grooves. And that's quite a normal characteristics of the Bridgestones, unfortunately. There is sort of a lot of chat online about it, people having gotten in touch with Bridgestone, and they have been quite clear that it is purely superficial and not something to worry about. We take a view on it, and if there's a little bit of cracking, that's fine. But if it's beyond a certain point, then really we'll just swap the tyres. So that's what we've done. So we've got two new fronts and the original rears with good tread. So yeah, we'll jack the car up, get these dolly wheels off, which look absolutely awful, and we'll get these on. While we've got the car in the air, we might as well take the opportunity to get the remaining wheel arch liners back in as well. So it's very common on i3s for these 8mm bolts everywhere to go a little bit rusty. It's obviously exposed to salt, and yeah, they can clean up, but what we're doing is we're reusing old ones in sort of the deep in places where you can't really see, and everywhere where there's bolts sort of very visible or on the surface, we've installed brand new ones. It's just, given it's a special car, it would be a shame to sort of put these back on, but you can always clean them up and spray them if you prefer. So what you don't want to do when you're here is forget to plug your temperature sensor back in. So it quite simply just inserts into here, like so, and that's that done. To complete the car, we popped on the final bits of trim, namely the offside front trim around the bumper and also the rear bumper body colour insert. With that done, the car is pretty much ready. However, we get one question a lot, and it's a difficult one to explain over phone or in writing, and that is the subject of door handles, because it's a bit of an awkward design, and as a result, it can be prone to failure and generally problems. And often, if you've not dealt with it before, or you go somewhere where they've not dealt with it before, the problem will just continue and it can just get very stressful. So firstly, let's just take a step back and understand why the door handle on the i3 is how it is. Unlike a conventional car, which is a metal skin, you can secure the door handle and fit it from the back and the front. With the i3, this panel here is essentially a plastic skin which pops off and pops on. And as a result, this door handle obviously will be in the way of that. So if you've watched our video which shows how to remove this panel, you'll know that the door handle has to come off first, which is why it's designed in such a way that it kind of slides on and off to allow for that panel to be removed. Because of this slightly unorthodox system, there are two adjusters just here, and they're behind these caps, and the problem is if they're not done up correctly or not done up in the correct order, this door handle will be prone to essentially being pulled out. That, I would say, is 80% of the reason door handles fail or they come out. I'd say also 20% of it is actually just user error. The issue is that people are very used to just yanking a door handle and it being quite a firm thing. If I lock the car first, you know, often you're sort of used to a door handle going up or out or whatever. But here, really what you should be doing is using your thumb to create a pivot point and almost making the whole door handle pivot like that, rather than yanking it out. Even then, if it's factory tightened, it shouldn't be doing that, even if you're doing it the wrong way. And usually it will be because the door handle has been tightened incorrectly. And the reason why, you might not even realize that the door skin has been off, but to do a lot of jobs on the i3, whether it's to repair the window regulator, whether it's to replace the mirror and a few other things in there, you've got to take that door skin off. So it's a common part to come off, and when it doesn't go back on properly, that's when the issues start. So to give you the complete picture on how to fit and remove the door handles properly, we're going to start from the beginning. Obviously, we've already fitted this door handle because we've had to move the car around, but we'll take it off first and then show you how to put it on. So let's unlock the car. Let's pull it open. And first, we've got these two kind of grommets to deal with. And these are the only two things you need to access to actually do this job. It's really simple. You only need two tools. You need a T20 Torx driver, like that, ideally quite long, and also a pretty rare specialist tool, which is an E4 socket, and especially a deep one, so it's got a long neck. Now, those are actually the opposite of each other, but yeah, it's a little bit of an awkward tool to find. If we can find a link for one that we know will reliably always be for sale, we'll link it below, but if not, an E4 deep socket is what you need. First things first, we've got to remove these caps or grommets or whatever you want to call them, and there's a little bit of trick to it. The one on the left is very easy, obviously left on the driver's side. You can just peel that one away with your fingers. It's got a bit of a ridge to catch on, so we'll put that one aside. As far as this one goes, it can be very difficult to get out without damaging. They're not expensive to replace. However, if you've got something a little bit like that, obviously you can improvise, but just something with a bit of a kink on it. If you get that in, roughly in place, and just push, comes straight out. And that won't damage it, and you can just reuse it. So that's one way to save yourself, I think, like 20p or something. Now that we've got those off, let's get the tools in place. And actually what you can do, and because it's difficult filming from two angles, is we're going to put the tools in place and then move around and show you everything from the front. So if we start with the E4, so I'll keep referring to this as the E4, that's the one that goes on the left, and you'll see just through that hole there is almost like a male stud with the same pattern. Now, often what you'll find is that that stud will be knackered because people have been in there with pliers trying to carry out this procedure. That's stripped the pattern off that stud, and it means you can't use the proper tool, and the carrier itself can't do what it's meant to do to properly adjust the handle. So if you're in that position, unfortunately there's no two ways about it. You've got to take the door skin off and replace the carrier itself, which is the component that holds the door handle in place. However, if you're looking in and everything looks right, you can just slot this E4 driver on top and just leave it in place. And then the T20 is a little bit harder, but the best thing to do is look through and spot the little screw that you're going to be attacking, and then just put the driver in, and hopefully it will marry up, and there it is. It's a little bit wobbly, but it will be okay. So with those in place, let's actually start removing the door handle. And to do that, let's understand what these two controllers do. So the E4, which is the one at the back, the male stud that we've got this specialist tool on, that controls the tightness of the door handle to the frame. So you can see the door handle's tight, and as I start turning this E4 driver out anti-clockwise, you'll see there's a bit of play developing. And I keep going, and there's a lot more play, and you can basically keep going until that E4 driver kind of reaches a point of resistance. And at this stage, you can see it's responding to that, and it's all very loose. So what we've done is we've pulled the door handle away. We're done with that tool, and we can actually just completely remove it. And now we go back in with the T20. For that, we'll just put it back in because it fell out, and I'm in. Try and give yourself a reference so you know how many turns you're doing, because there is a sort of perfect number to do. And so I'm using this sort of in an upright position. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you've done that right and everything is how it should be, At this stage, that door handle should just slot straight out like that. Sometimes you need to give it a bit of a wiggle, maybe go a little bit further in terms of turns here, but it shouldn't really be any more. If we move in here, you can actually see the screw that we've been unscrewing. If I now undo the 6 turns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see exactly that gap where the door handle is held. It's this bit here, and we often see people posting sort of photos here showing, oh, this is all chewed up and there's a gap and there shouldn't be. That's exactly how it's meant to look like. There's nothing wrong there. That's how it should be. And that little gap is basically what is being held in place by that screw. So we'll put the door handle down. We'll undo this demonstration. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're now in a position where we are ready to put the door handle on. Now, if you're not in a situation where you're putting back on the door handle, you've just removed yourself using this method, you might be in a position where these things aren't where they need to be. In which case, using what we've just learned, you can get it into kind of the ready to accept position. That is by turning the E4 all the way until there's resistance, just by hand. You don't need any power tools for this. And in the case of the torque screw, it's a case of unscrewing it 6 turns from the position where it's about the right thickness to accept that piece of black plastic. Before we reverse the process and put the door handle back on, just a quick thing to mention, which is that if you've got any of the upgraded interiors or comfort access, you will have 1 or 2 little cables and connectors coming out through this gap here into connectors here. So when you're taking the door handle off and putting it back on, remember to deal with those connectors and be careful because they're quite fragile. With that out of the way, let's put this door handle on. So simple as it was to come off, we just kind of let it find its position and we just slot it on. Simple as that. Now, obviously at this stage, it's still quite loose. It can come on and off. So once it's on, if you apply a little bit of pressure, you can kind of feel it gliding along the face of the skin. So with that, doing that, push it all the way to the back of the door like this. You're applying minimal pressure, really not much. You're not trying to kind of over tighten it or have it in a position where it's kind of under pressure. But with that there, we put the T20 back in. Give me a moment just to find that. There we go. And if we look here, as I'm twisting and we're expecting about 6 turns, you'll see the door handle move to the right. And you might not see it on camera, but you will feel it. And it's just moving as that screw is pushing it into its final position. And we're about there. Now, in terms of tightness, this does not need to be over tightened. All you're going to do is you're going to strip the head off that screw and then you need to get yourself a new carrier. So just hand tight and a little sort of pinch and that's it. Obviously things are still going to be wobbly because we haven't dealt with that other adjuster yet. But in terms of tightness, that's as far as you have to go. You don't have to glue it, you don't have to do anything like that. If you follow this process, that door handle will not come off. So that's that done. We'll put that one down and now we'll get the E4, and this bit's easy. Put it back on, and you just start tightening it until, and you can see here, I've gone from wobbly to less wobbly, and that's pretty much it. And you don't have to go all the way, just go until it feels about right. So with that tightened, before you do anything else, an important thing to do is just simulate the door locking by just doing that, and you'll hear the window go up, and then just pull the door handle to make sure that nothing's overstressed and everything's working fine. You can sometimes find that if you over tighten this adjuster, because of the fine tolerances in length of the Bowden cable, which runs to the lock, that lock will stop working on the exterior handle. But all seems fine. That's locking and it's unlocking and we're nice and tight. Maybe if there's a tiny bit of wobble, you can just go a little bit further, like so. And also if over time the door handle's got a bit loose, it's not this one that you're looking to tighten. You're just looking to give it a little bit of clockwise turn with this E4 and that'll bring it right back into spec. So I'm happy with that tightness. Everything's opening and closing nicely and that door handle is pretty much factory tightened now and won't be coming off. Last thing to do is just to replace these caps. So the awkward one goes on the right and then this one just goes there. Done. So that's the crash course on BMW i3 door handles over, and we hope you found it useful. More importantly though, this car is now 100% finished and ready for its grand reveal. We're super pleased with how it came out, and it was great to have the opportunity to make something so unique. And I know the word unique gets thrown around, but in this case, it truly is unique because it's probably the only 120 amp hour BMW i3 in the world with factory original bar one panel Protonic Blue paintwork. With everything done and finished, the car's now going on our AUTOTRADER page, so if you're interested in buying it, feel free to get in touch with us. All that's left to say is thank you for watching, and if this is the first video that you've watched about this car and you're interested in watching the backstory, Martin's made a playlist all about it with all the episodes, so you can click up here to watch that, and if you're generally interested in our content and i3s, maybe click here to subscribe. Thank you, and see you in the next one.